And then one thing I'll say about this year, right? And I
Hmm.
kind of want to use this as a little bit of a segue to our next, subject.
Yeah.
But this year, I don't know. It seems like it went by quick, but
Hmm.
at the same time, I think there was just so many things that happened that it seems like the year was long at the same time,
Mm.
right?
It's true.
Because and we could kind of talk a little bit about music, but top of the new year, January,
Yeah.
you know, things were getting a little bit chaotic.
Yeah.
But the weekend came, he blessed us with some heat. He dropped
Something
that
like that.
he
Something like
dropped
that
that
radio.
Don
He
FM.
played that radio station. That radio station. I remember Don. What Don FM?
Don
Was it?
FM, yeah.
I
So,
try to tune in, but I keep tuning out. I don't know
bro,
what happens.
honestly, and I don't like putting people on blast, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I know Sir Man, this conversation, it's not me, that they posted an Apple Music to their story of a track off that album. And it wasn't me
Yeah.
that did it.
Say word.
So
That's crazy.
so I think you like that album more than you're giving it credit for.
No, 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 no. I'm just trying to play along here. But yeah, it was a great album. It kind of it. I almost forgot that it came out this year because like you look back at the songs that come out in the first quarter, and it's like you you're so in the moment of like it's cold still. Like you're still like you're looking forward to summer and summer songs and like Caravana's back and all that. So like you almost forget that like all those like the weekend dropping. I forget who also dropped in first quarter. I think Future dropped. I
And
think
Gunna
Gunna
dropped
dropped
too.
as well. Gunna dropped as well. Um, so it's like it almost becomes forgettable, but like you gotta go back and listen because Don FM was definitely was one of those. It was one of those for sure. Don't get me wrong. It was definitely when I did my Apple Music wrap up. The weekend was there for a reason, right?
Oh
So
yeah?
uh, yeah, yeah. So um, that was a great album for sure. I wouldn't say it was album of the year. I think what what perspired, and I don't know if you want to say that Drake bit the weekend or copied his style with the news that came out, or it was a clip that came out that CLB, Certified Lover Boy, Honestly Nevermind, and her loss. Um, it's almost like a statement how you line that up. It was a trilogy, and as we know, speaking on trilogies, the previous trilogy that was I guess took the world by storm. That everyone had to get the whole trilogy box set almost was your guy The Weekend. So we have someone that helped shelter or get The Weekend to what he is today, and he took it and ran, of course, being the artist he is today. But we have another trilogy that came out, and it's hard for me not. I gotta give it time. I gotta give it time. I can't say one trilogy is better than the next because that other trilogy, it's timeless. But when we look back at this trilogy that we got, or we got two parts of it in this year. When we look back, um, it might be that timeless trilogy that surpasses the other trilogy that came from the city. To be
Yeah.
honest,
And you know
and when
what's
we want to go into album of the year, it's hard for me not to say her loss was her loss is album of the year. To be honest.
it's up there, but like what was so like crazy to me when Drake made that statement?
Mm-hmm.
Because the weekend, like after he dropped this album, he was doing a lot of engagement on Twitter, like responding to fans and all this stuff, right? So he tweeted, he's like, "Did you guys know that right now you're in the middle of a trilogy?" So what he was implying is that After Hours and Dawn FM were two albums of a trilogy, right? So it was very interesting to me to see Drake now say that, oh, this album is a trilogy, knowing that this guy dropped one previously a decade. And then earlier this year, he says that he's in the middle of making one, right? And then
Okay.
I'll say this too, right? Some people might say, oh, you're reading too much into it, but I pay attention to little things, right?
Okay.
So the weekend was supposed to have his tour in Toronto in July, right?
Hmm.
But there was a network outage that he had to postpone.
Correct.
But the night before, I remember Drake he posted a video on his IG story and he was saying like, "Yo, I remember this is the first place I ever heard the Weeknd's music, right?"
I remember that. Yeah.
So I think he was kind of hinting that he wanted to be a surprise guest. But then,
Okay.
the show got postponed. It happened, right? Then
Hmm.
eventually September, the Weeknd came back to do back-to-back shows.
Hmm.
And then everyone was surprised that, oh, he didn't even bring out the Drake as a guest. Like the expectation was he was just gonna do it, but he didn't.
Right. Right.
So it's not lost on me that after the Weeknd finished his run in Toronto, Drake went on IG and he posted on his story. It's never personal. It's just business. So
Drake is spicy, man. Drake likes to get spicy. You see what he did with the Chris Paul jerseys and all.
yeah. So
Calculated, well calculated fella right there. I
so
think
I'm like,
Weekend's quite calculated himself too.
that's what I'm saying. I think it was deliberate, right? So I think he posted that with the intention of kind of saying like you didn't bring me out. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
felt a way about it. He took it personal, right?
Hmm.
And then I'll tell you, this is another thing I observe where people are gonna say again, oh, you're reading too much into it. But I don't believe in coincidence sometimes.
Okay.
So again, this is something petty, but it's just an observation I made.
Right.
So the Weekend was on IG. He's posting on his story him holding like a little baby cat, right?
Okay. Oh, okay.
And then
Oh, I'm on
just
to you.
and then just last night, Drake posted a picture of him holding a baby cat in the exact same way the Weekend was holding it on his IG. So,
Okay.
and if you guys think, and anyone who's listening who says, "Oh, you're reading too much into it," go look, Google search the Weekend cat on Google and see what
Hmm.
articles come up on Google News. That people wrote
Hmm.
articles saying, "Oh, the Weekend was babysitting a furry little animal." You don't think
Yeah.
that Drake saw that and then was like, "Yo, okay, here's a way that I can kind of do this to bring that kind of attention to myself."
Hmm.
So I think Drake has like this weird dynamic where he really respects the Weeknd, but he's mad at him because their relationship hasn't been the same.
Yeah.
So they
A
have like,
weird obsession. Like it's a weird ex. One of those ex like you constantly track, but like
yeah,
it's like you guys you're over there, she's over there, but it's like there's still like that weird tension. Yeah, yeah, it's one of those.
yeah, but it's like if they see each other, they'll be cordial,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
we know and they know that there's tension between them, but neither of them want to acknowledge the tension. So it's a very strange dynamic. So
Hmm.
when you brought up the trilogy thing, I do find it interesting that after the Weeknd dropped a trilogy and then says he's in the middle of doing what now Drake says, yeah, CLB, um, honestly, never mind, and her loss is part of a trilogy. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
it's subtle warfare. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But we know with Drake, like we know he's a style steer. We have accepted it, but he just adds that extra seasoning to it that makes it just a bit better. That's all it is. That Osmo seasoning that he adds to everything that he puts his pen to.
It's true, bro. So it's it's funny, but like I think this year, I mean, like there wasn't really aside from those two, there wasn't really much projects that I was like really super excited about. Like that future
Well,
project, it seemed like it just came and went. Like it didn't really stick like that.
well, there's a problem here with music and just the environment we're in and how we, I guess, um, go through music nowadays, right? All music drops on Friday, right? So, and it's not just one. It's not. There's build-ups to albums and projects as well and everything. But the thing is, it's like we get the music on a Friday. We might listen to it on the Friday once or halfway through. We get into the Saturday now, whatever the case may be, and there's other projects to listen to. Now we get into the next week. Are we still going back to that? If it's good enough, we might go back to it one, two times, go to the gym, whatever, go to a 1-2 party, throw it on. But then after that, It's done. Oh, there's another project happening the next Friday. And it's 2, 3. It's an R&B. It's a thing. And now these artists do these huge rollouts and everything, and they drop singles and these videos. It's hard to just let a album marinate and just constantly listening to it, right? And it doesn't help us being in here in Toronto. The DJ scene's not the greatest. We don't have the greatest DJs. So when we go out, are they playing the new songs? They might play one song that we hear all the time already. You might hear 21. Can you do some 5 times every time we go out? But we're not hearing everything. We're not. They don't mix it. The DJs aren't really. They're playing your top 40 tracks usually. Unless you find that there are some good DJs in the city. Don't get me wrong, right? But again, we do have a younger demographic here in Toronto, being 19 at the legal age, right? So we have people like kids, younger people. I want to say kids, just younger people, a younger demographic that want to hear that one song over and over again, or those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hit songs, and that's it. And they'll just run it every weekend. So you don't really get to feel what a song or an album did, the impact it had on a city, right? Or a party, or you're like wherever you are, right? So that's the difference. It's so fast. It's all the distractions are there. It's hard to really digest albums and appreciate it and almost go back to be like, damn, like when I heard that album, this was happening, right? And you don't get that anymore, right? Because like there's always another project coming out. There's always new music. There's always a new rollout. Like it's hard to keep up with all the projects that came out. There was so much music that came out this year, and it's like I don't want to say that there was bad music. I feel like I almost have to go back and listen to a lot of the projects that came out because I feel like it was a good year for music, but so much music, right? So
Yeah, I agree. Like, and I think in terms of like artist names, like we mentioned two of them, Weekend and Drake, right? And then you mentioned
mhm,
Future and Gunna, but then there was also Beyonce, and then there was also
mhm,
Kendrick. Like,
yeah,
so there was
big artist,
some,
yeah,
yeah. So these were top billing names that dropped this year, right? But I think with the way the music landscape is it just comes and goes, right? And it's like
mhm,
it doesn't really, we don't give it enough time, like you said, to marinate and really let it resonate. And
yeah,
I think it's going to be very hard moving forward to create a moment with music.
yeah,
Like I remember when Drake dropped Views, that was a moment,
a
right?
moment, yeah,
Like the
yeah,
rollout on that album was crazy, bro. Like
mhm,
literally you can ask anybody, yo, where were you when Views dropped? And you will be able
you
to
know,
paint a
yeah,
picture, right?
yeah,
It was summertime, or it was like spring going into summertime in the city.
yeah, spring,
You know what
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? And you
Yeah, he
can
had a
literally,
whole radio show and everything. He debuted it on the radio show. Like it was a moment for sure. You don't
yeah,
get that anymore.
you
You
don't get
don't.
it. And the closest thing I can think of to it was like maybe when the weekend dropped After Hours, because it was like right at the start of the pandemic, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like you had no choice but to listen to that because
yeah. You had no choice. Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
the world literally stopped at that moment, and he, dropped something. And luckily
hmm,
it was a fire album, right?
yeah, yeah.
But we haven't really had that because now it's like it keeps coming, it just keeps coming.
Keeps going.
And
One thing
it's
after the next, right?
yeah. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah. Well,
like
for
yeah,
me, it's like for me, like it's not so much. I feel like it's the same thing with sports, right? Now it's not. There's always coverage. There's always these blog pages, whatever, gossip pages that would like shade room pages, right? That cover like the personal lives of the artist. But I feel like people care about that more than the music. And that's what the problem is. They care about who Drake's smashing or who Ye was with or who Michael who's Pippen's sons with, who Jordan's sons with, like all that stuff, rather than what music is coming out. Or that's how I feel like is more important. The gossip has outweighed the music.
it's true.
Or not even say that. I feel like podcasts. People are more excited for a podcast review and what someone like Joe Budden is gonna say rather than your actual opinion of if you like or don't like the music.
It's true. Like there's people who will have to like that will go to the internet, right, to read or listen to someone else's opinion and then use that opinion to shape their own. So
Yeah, and
before,
that's why you see these streamers have such a huge platform. Where we're seeing Aiden Ross or Kai, these streamers that are just like out of here from just like sitting there streaming, listening to music, or having that artist there and talking about their music, and they get all these streams just from that. Like people will want to see that more